Welcome to The Explainer. We're the show that turns big, complex topics into clear, dynamic presentations. And today, we are going to dive into something you experience every single day: stories.
So what if I told you that the way you read books, watch movies, and even tell your own life story was all shaped by just 4 major revolutions? It's true. There were 4 huge shifts, kind of like earthquakes, that completely changed storytelling forever. Let's dive in.
Our journey begins way back in the Renaissance. This is where we see the first radical idea. Stories stopped looking only to the heavens and started talking about people. You know, people like you and me.
For centuries, almost every story was about gods or saints. But then, all of a sudden, bam! A huge change. Writers realized that ordinary people were actually super interesting, and they started telling stories about our lives, our dreams, and our feelings. We became the heroes of our own stories.
A really smart guy named Montaigne captured this idea perfectly. He said that to understand the world, you first have to understand yourself. It's like having a mirror to your own heart. From that point on, stories started to explore the secrets that we all carry inside.
And you know what really helped? A groundbreaking new technology, the printing press. It was a machine that could make books super fast. Thanks to the printing press, these new humanist ideas spread across Europe like wildfire. Everyone could suddenly read these amazing new stories.
Okay, let's jump forward in time to the 19th century. The next great upheaval was about using stories as a kind of magic mirror, one that showed the world exactly as it was, warts and all.
The novelist Stendhal gave us the perfect metaphor for this era. He said a novel is like a mirror you carry down a long road. And that mirror shows you everything. The beautiful blue sky, but also the mud and the puddles. So writers started following a new set of rules. They wanted their stories to feel so real, so believable, that you could almost reach out and touch them. They observed every little detail, they pointed out social injustices, and they dug deep into the psychology of their characters to figure out why they did the things they did.
Masters of this form started to pop up, like Gustave Flaubert. He used this mirror to meticulously document the story of Madame Bovary, a woman who dreamed of a life of adventure and luxury, but was trapped in a really frustrating ordinary reality.
Meanwhile, in England, you had Charles Dickens. He used that same mirror to expose the harsh, brutal realities of the Industrial Revolution, especially the tough lives of poor children who had to work in factories. And in Russia, Dostoevsky turned that mirror inward. He used it to explore the darkest corners of the human soul, showing us the guilt and moral turmoil of a young man who commits a terrible crime.
The mirror of realism had been perfected. It was crystal clear. But what happens when a new generation of writers comes along and decides to shatter it into a million pieces?
Well, that's exactly what happened. This was the pivotal question of modernism at the turn of the 20th century. What if the most important reality isn't what's happening outside, but what's happening inside our own minds? The focus shifted from objective reality to our messy, subjective experience.
And to explore this inner world, they had to invent new tools. The most famous one is called stream of consciousness, or interior monologue. It's like they cracked open a character's skull and just let all their thoughts, feelings, and memories pour out onto the page in a continuous river.
And sometimes, this new inner reality was a complete nightmare. I mean, look at Kafka. He starts a story with a guy, Gregor Samsa, who just wakes up one morning to find he's turned into a giant bug. It wasn't about the world outside anymore. It was about the alienation and absurdity he felt on the inside.
And then you have writers like James Joyce, who tried to do something almost impossible: capture the entire experience of being alive in a single moment. His books are like these giant, complex puzzles made of fragmented thoughts, sounds, and memories, all jumbled together.
So after 2 world wars, even the idea of a single, coherent self started to feel shaky. And this led to the 4th Revolution, which asked a really profound question. What if reality itself is just meaningless?
This feeling gave birth to movements like the theater of the absurd. I mean, these plays were totally wild. The plots didn't make sense, characters would repeat the same lines over and over, and sometimes the play would end exactly where it began. It was their way of reflecting a world that seemed to have lost its mind.
Some artists, called the Dadaists, took this idea to the absolute extreme. They embraced pure chance and nonsense. I mean, check out this recipe for a Dadaist poem. You literally cut words out of a newspaper, shake them in a bag, and write down whatever comes out. Their thinking was, if the world is destroyed by logic and order, then our art will be illogical and chaotic as a form of protest.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, why does any of this matter? Well, the crucial point is that these aren't just some dusty old literary movements. They are the fundamental building blocks of the stories we see and love every single day.
Just think about it. The intense focus on one person's life in a biopic or a reality show, that's the first revolution at work. Those gritty TV dramas that expose real-world social problems, that's the mirror of realism from the second. And whenever you hear a character's inner thoughts in a voiceover or see a flashback, yep, that's the broken mirror of the third revolution. And all that surreal, absurd meme culture on the internet, that has the fingerprints of the fourth revolution all over it.
So, we've seen stories evolve from being about God to being about us to reflecting our inner minds and finally to questioning reality itself. It's been an incredible journey, and it leaves us with one last, really exciting question to think about. What do you think the fifth revolution in storytelling will be?